And then are we doing what?
And then, yeah, sorry, so what
Yeah,
we're going to do,
that's
once
cool.
you'll be, there's no one else left to talk, is there? Just me, sanity check myself, yeah. Yeah, so Toby will do quick 10 minutes on the year, and then what we'll do is we'll break out onto tables or to boards. I might do that while you're chatting, actually, put some giant post-it notes, and then we'll just congregate around those for 20 minutes, half hour, and throw our ideas in and exchange contact details.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much. Well, first of all, thanks Belinda for organising this. I think I only know about half the people in the room, which is great. So, if a quick introduction. My name is Toby Parkins. I set up a company called UK Network about 16 years ago. That's sort of more technical web development agency doing basically anything difficult. Set up another company called Head Forwards about 4.5 years ago. That's now partners with NTT Communications in Japan, and soon to be announcing another big sort of Fortune 500 or Fortune 20 actually company. And that's based on outsourced software development model, but it's a sort of new model in outsourced software development. So I work with Lisa there. Work with Melissa on the Pixel app, which is one of a startup which a few people feel could become a unicorn. Which a unicorn, if you're not aware, is a company that achieves $1 billion valuation. So it's absolutely phenomenal application.
And we're hiring. Just if anyone knows.
EU funding.
And so this is just the introduction. So then, obviously, knowledge is at the core of all this, which is why I sort of came up with the idea of Agile on the Beach. So set up, it's also helped run that. Software Cornwall, director of and president of Cornwall Chamber of Commerce. Also set up the idea of the Fibre Park project, which is a project that might go forward. And if anybody wants to find out more about that, that's about having workspace principally, but then actually have some education space. But do talk to me about that, because if you're looking for workspace which will have like 10 gig connectivity, combining that with education and a sort of innovation space, then we are looking for people that are interested in being part of that from a sort of workspace perspective, principally. The date for your diary, 3rd of December. We're trying out the idea of an innovation club. That's going to be based at Poole Innovation Centre, first one, 8 till 10 in the morning, so it's kind of a breakfast meeting type thing. There'll be a few speakers. We've got Mark Doddridge, who's the next LEP chair, talking about how they've managed to innovate in terms of the food industry, and then there'll be some other businesses. Just the idea is just to allow businesses to get together to actually hear different stories about how you innovate, how you do things differently, how you develop your businesses. One of the things that is at the heart of all of those things is community. So I think I've got to say another big thank you to Belinda for all of her work driving forward the software Cornwall community, which is it's been really great to date. I think in the future, one of my firm passions, which actually kind of underlies a lot of the stuff that I do, so setting up a digital meetup group and all that sort of thing, it's about community and it's about people. And the more people that we can get together to be part of that community at varying levels of activity and participation, the stronger the industry offering, and therefore the easier it is to actually drive businesses forwards and obviously have income so that you can pay yourselves to eat pizza or drive cars or go surfing, whatever you want to do. So I mean, and I think Cornwall is really well placed for this. But one of the key things from that community is to actually ensure that we can actually help drive the future. Belinda mentioned I sit on the LMC, or the Local Management Committee, for the last European Convergence Programme. I've done that for about 4 years. And I sit on the ITI board, the Integrated Territorial Investment board, which is the board that oversees the next European programme. And I'm the private sector representative. It's massively underrepresented from the private sector in my view. But one of the things that happened in 2010 with the new coalition government was a complete rethink in how economic development happened. So instead of the sort of centralist outwards approach of government, RDAs, regional development agencies, and then economic development activities, is that they wanted to change things so that there was far more private sector drive, with the theory that the private sector, if you give the private sector the opportunity to try and come up with the ideas of helping drive forward economic development, business growth, opportunities, then actually you'll get some really, really interesting good ideas that will work for those businesses, as opposed to the sort of historical top-down approach of like, you know, this is what you businesses will have in order to grow. That actually was, and I remember it 5 years ago. All of a sudden, the behaviour of all the people involved in economic development suddenly changed, and everybody wanted to talk to the businesses, and all of a sudden I was getting invites to all these different things, and it was like, it was fantastic. And that it's now we have the opportunity with the next European programme, and with the local enterprise partnerships being. Is everybody aware of what Local Enterprise Partnership does? Hands up if you want quick clarification. Okay, so the Local Enterprise Partnership is partnership, public-private partnership. It has a number of businesses, non-exec directors from various different businesses, and it has people from the public sector, so principally the council, the Isles of Scilly and Cornwall. So all LEPs have to be more than one council area in size. So it's Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly councils are represented on there. There's a university representative, and the idea is that if you can actually bring together the private sector and the public sector to drive forward and create an agenda for the future, then actually that's how you're going to drive better economic development. Obviously, the private sectors have got the ideas of what works for them as businesses, and the public sector obviously are there to help work with the private sector to deliver that. What this actually means in practical terms, the next European programme, 600 and something million euros, it's broken up into lots of different sort of areas. So there's some business support, there's a big area under smart specialisation. What they call the smart specialisations are e-health, digital economy, space, marine technologies, digital economy, agri-tech, agri-food tech. So those are the sort of the key areas, and within that I think we're looking at around about £125 million that's allocated to help drive forward research and development and innovation. And within that whole structure, considering with the LEP and the emphasis on a private sector drive, there's going to be a number of different opportunities. So there's chunks of that money which will be spent in different ways, but there's a massive opportunity for us, everyone in this room, to actually put forward their ideas on what they think is actually needed in terms of projects. We talked about Software Cornwall earlier. That's an example of a group of businesses that are coming together to actually agree as a part of the community ideas on the way forward. And the principle is that the LEP are more likely to listen to groups of people, groups of businesses, because obviously groups of businesses, if they all agree on certain things, then those are pretty good ideas, and therefore those are the ideas that should be moving forward. So you can kind of ask for anything in the workshop bit after this. You can, I don't know. If you really think we need to have digital ice cream carts going around Cornwall because that's going to create economic development, then write it down as an idea. There may be other ideas as well, which, and obviously some ideas will have more weight than others, but I will emphasise there is this opportunity by creating these ideas, by talking about them with other people, by sharing those ideas within the community, and by therefore the best ideas rising to the top and gathering weight and support from other people in the community. Those ideas are the ones which can go forward and then be considered in terms of becoming part of the next programme, next European funding programme. And there's an awful lot of money there. The fundamental principle with a lot of these ideas is that it's match funding. So the European money is match funded for certain things. There are some project areas are very, very difficult to get match funding for. So therefore, the percentage of European funding would be greater. But there's other areas where actually, you can bring in some private sector match funding. So the classic thing about, you build a building, half of it gets funded by the private sector and half of it gets funded by this sort of EU funding. That's one model. But then there's all sorts of other things as well. So if you keep that in the back of your mind as well. So, it's a very simple one. People always say about, sales and marketing, we're not actually getting, as a lot of individual businesses, collectively, we're not really being able to reach new markets. So in the service sector. So actually maybe there's an opportunity for everyone to chip in a bit of money and get that match to create a far larger project to achieve marketing aims. Maybe it's to do with training. Maybe it's to do with, I don't know, it's up to us to actually come up with the ideas and then help drive those ideas forward. Any questions?
I've got a quick one. So at the end of the last round of funding, they were starting to talk about making actual investments rather than doing them all as grants, or so you have some equity or it's repairable. Is that being carried forward into anything?
Yeah, so that's as part of the next programme. There will be there is a shift in what the area that they're calling financial instruments, away from just giving grants away, and there will be some grant areas, but they're also looking to create a more sustainable model of what they call sort of mezzanine finance or debt finance. So debt finance, where banks or other lending sources are not available for a particular business because it's too high risk typically, they may be able to offer a higher risk debt finance solution. So obviously you've got to pay it back, but that money then goes back into a pot which can then be lent out again. And there's potential for all sorts of other really interesting kind of private equity matched mixed solutions as well, where you get private equity coming in and then debt finance off the back of that, so that the risk is assessed by the private equity investor, like a typical venture capitalist or angel investor or early stage seed investor. They put their own money in as a private investor or VC, and therefore, and some of that European money could potentially be matched alongside that. In order to make sure the money goes to the places where it's, I wouldn't say lowest risk, it might be a high risk, but it's got a high chance, or the best chance of success, the best chance of return on investment, which is of course what a normal private equity investor is very good at. Certainly if they've had multiple successful investments, they will. So there are all sorts of different models in that area, but they are looking at, and they're doing some research at the moment into all the different all the different options there. And if you get really bored, there's a document produced by Department of Community Local Government and the European Investment Bank, which is only about 68 pages or something. But yeah, I read half of it on holiday actually. But it goes into there's all sorts of different models, and they do different models in different parts of Europe, different parts of the world. But there are some quite interesting opportunities in that area that should be coming out.
Are there any general questions around, actually? Go on.
I just had a quick one, which is I understand there's a new tranche of EU funding coming in is it January or February? Is this funding the same sort of thing, or because I know that there's so many different projects.
Yeah, so the new tranche of funding, basically the funding that's being decided, it normally comes in there's two key stages of it. So I doubt that you'll see any funding per se, actually checks being written in January.
Oh yeah.
But early next year you'll start to see some of the business support programs starting to kick off again. Not in January, but as soon as very early next year, they're keen to drive those forward. But the way that the program is planned, there's some bits that there's most of it hasn't been actually planned yet, hasn't been actually so therefore this is where we've got the prime opportunity right now to actually contribute, particularly in that area of sort of digital economy or some of those smart specialisations or general innovation ideas actually. There's the opportunity to put the ideas in, which will then be rolled into and designed into programs, which will then be bid for by organisations that will deliver those programs, which will then involve businesses. So,
Cool.
any other questions?
I just before the summer, at a few of the meetups, it was mentioned that there was going to be a group or an organisation set up to sort of help with getting past the funding.
Yep.
And they mentioned it may be the end of the year. I just wondered if that was still progressing or.
Yeah, so that's what they call the Growth Hub, which will be an organisation that will help, that you'll be able to go to get help and advice on finding your way through the maze of different funding opportunities that as they start becoming available. So as they go on, it's not all starting all on the 1st of January. There'll be like some two different startup programs, different types of startup programs. There'll be high growth business coaching. So those will be the first business support programs, which will start in probably the first quarter. Don't quote me on that, but and then the idea of the Growth Hub is a place where is a website. They've got an interim Growth Hub website at the moment, but that'll be the sort of one place you go to register to say, hey, I'm a business, I want to have support, I want to grow. You register there and you talk to them, and then they help guide you to all the relevant areas of support.
Okay, sure. So that's done sort of more on a national level. It's not on.
The Growth Hub is a local Cornwall Oct15
okay.
Growth
And you
Hub
can,
thing.
you can go on the website and register now.
Yeah, you can register
So you can
your
go on there and subscribe.
I would wait until, I wouldn't expect much until some point during the first quarter of next year for it to really start.
I'll say April next year is when it's all going to kick off, I can say it, because I'm not. That's when I think.
It won't all kick off.
But that's when things will start to actually.
There's going to be more happening in April than there will be in January.
Yeah. We'll start seeing. I think we'll start seeing things really hit the ground and be set up and ready to go by then. So.
Could I just say there's other sources of funding from the European Commission which have just been published last week for R&D projects. This is across Europe, not just based in Cornwall, of course. There's a particular heading for collaborative projects between universities and creative industry firms. Companies like yours will become the university's best friends, and you won't be able to go ahead and apply for funding unless you've got a good partnership together. We're talking in the order of tens of millions rather than hundreds of millions, but it's substantial, and you can get some really interesting projects. It might be a bit of an eye-opener for the durations involved. I've worked with games companies and said, yes, this is a 3-year project, and the games companies say in 3 years' time we've got no idea what we'll be doing. So it might be a bit longer term than you might be used to, but it's a good opportunity.
So what I've done, hopefully not too interruptively, as while Toby was talking, is I've just gone to some of the whiteboards and put up some post-it notes. So we've got Darren's Digital Heart project, the digital media with Alan James, Tech Week with Barry, who I've volunteered to go and help that, Toby with the EU funds, Simon and Ed over there with games, and me and Lisa over here with the software Cornwall. So Lisa's kindly said that she'll help. I've put some post-it notes and pens on the tables. So, and there are super sized post-it notes as well, which I'll grab once we're off the tables. But if you can kind of capture stuff onto the post-it notes, and then that acts as a really good record, and we can all photograph them and use them and take them away. So, if everybody's happy to do that, we're on 7:30, so we're running quite